All right, we're ready to start. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the stream. Today is Tuesday. We're also starting a little late, so it'll be a slightly shorter stream than usual, but let's get started. So, I wrote some notes of things we want to accomplish today. And these are kind of related to things we were starting to work on yesterday, and things I wanted to look at. So, firstly, let's talk about standard less. I was watching a video about basic, ways of using C++ ranges and views, because I was more or less interested in learning how to make use of that, right? So, I stumbled upon this from some kind of code that I found, and it's a function object, or excuse me, for performing comparisons, apparently. Standard less is... oh, okay, I thought this was gonna do something else, I'll be honest. I just saw this and I wanted to know what this was, and maybe it would be something I could use, right? It literally just sees if one argument is less than the other and then returns it, which is like, okay. I guess so. I was hoping this would be something different, more like, extract, maybe the first value from a pair or something? I don't know, I was just thinking maybe, right? Anyway, we're back over here, and in my notes, one of the things I want to do, it's right here, I wanted to change the name of the target function to be called getTargetsInRange, because I feel like this name doesn't really encapsulate what this function actually is for. Just target could mean something like targeting, I don't know, like a like choosing a target, right? It's not really clear what it's actually for, so I wanted to change the name of it to getTargetsInRange. I feel like that's going to be way more clear and really cements what it's actually trying to do. And I'm just going to select current project. Actually, I should be doing entire solution, but yeah. So, I have to resize windows. Let me see here. Target. Yes. Unconfirmed references. No, we're not doing those. Those are the name of two regions that just happen to have the word target in it. And the rest of these look unrelated, so we're not going to affect those at all. Excellent. Okay. Well, yes, welcome everyone. I hope you're all doing well today. So that was just a very simple change I want to look at. I wanted to know what standard less was. I got what well, it didn't do what I thought it was going to do, so that's fine. But yeah, I wrote this here. This is supposed to be an S. It says buff use duration instead of lifetime. So I found out that one of the members inside of buff is called duration and one is called lifetime. And to clarify, duration is actually the amount of time the buff will last, and the duration is what goes down. So if we actually look at the members of buff, we'll see there's a duration, there's actually an original duration, and then there is a lifetime. So in my bullet class, I have something called lifetime, and traditionally we use that to determine how much more time that a bullet should exist. Same with effects, but here we actually use the lifetime to indicate how long this buff has been alive. So that's a little confusing, right? Why do we use a member name that means something in all these other places but not here? So this name is very misleading, and I thought I was incrementing the lifetime of the buff, but really I was just incrementing the total lifetime. It's just a counter that keeps track, right? So I kind of want to rename this to actually be called a total time alive, because that tells us exactly what this is, right? What is a lifetime anyway? So yeah, that feels much better. Let's go ahead and refactor that, and then after that we want to set it to do buff uses the duration instead of that total lifetime, because that's what we actually intended to do. So right now we're looking at that freeze ground class, and essentially in freeze ground, after a buff wears off, that was the buff expire callback function, we wanted to renew the buff and keep it alive. Let me see here. So yeah, we have all these places where we, so you can see here, the code here, lifetime plus equals elapsed time. You can see that's actually what it's supposed to be for. It's supposed to be the total time alive, while the duration goes down. So naturally in my head, I was thinking, we used lifetime in the past to indicate how long something should live. Why would we change it now? In the buff system specifically. So all these changes here make sense. I agree with all these, and all these are just lifetimes for other places. They just happen to use the same names. So we're not going to apply them to those. And then now we're looking at not using buff.total time alive, but what we originally intended was to increment the duration. And I would even go one step further and say the duration should be renamed to lifetime, because instinctively that's what I wanted to use. So we're going to now do that as well. And then I think everything is in place. And we'll keep original duration as is because that makes sense, right? So here we're changing all these to duration, or from duration to be lifetime. Hi there, it's Mr. Robot. Welcome. Okay. So now, even though we've done this, so I originally thought that incrementing the lifetime would keep the buff alive, but we actually have no code for that. So I added a note saying we need to prevent the buff from expiring if the duration is adjusted again. You remember me. Alright, so here I actually have pulled up in monster.cpp where exactly the callback function is called. So if the function is non-empty, it's going to call that callback function. Now, this doesn't actually return or do anything. It just occurs. So, the return true here returns true to, I think, get rid of it. Like, as in it's done. Because this is an erase if. So erase if says, if you return true, you're going to erase, in this case, the buff from the buff list. So we want to check after we've done this if lifetime is greater than 0 again. So if lifetime is less than... Actually, we can just even write it here in the conditional. b.lifetime is less than or equal to 0. So if we end up extending the lifetime, then we actually return that this is fine. Keep the buff alive. Did you buy this channel or what? Where's the guy that codes here? No, I didn't buy this channel. That's me. Hi. Okay, so now we're back to this. So we didn't actually finish implementing get targets in range, or I think we did, but we used a standard transform, which doesn't actually work here because there seems to be a couple more things we have going on that we don't understand. So let's try to figure this out right now. So one thing is I wanted to make it so we only return item not first and insert it back into targets, right? I actually found out I might be able to do this with ranges. So I want to try this today. And this is something I found just from looking at how to use C++ ranges and views. I just wanted to get a better understanding. So I kind of want to see if we can implement it this way. So if we have full list here, we can do a standard, in this case we want to do a, I guess we want to do like a transform view, because this isn't really a filter view. This is like take every element and do something with it. So it's going to be like standard ranges transform view, or excuse me, transform, and transform accepts a range and then an output, a function and a projection. Let me see if I can range 1, range 2, output and function. So range 1 is full list, range 2 is targets, and then the function itself, I guess, looks like this, right? And that's more or less like the same thing, essentially. It's just instead of using standard transform, we're using ranges transform. I think I understand now. What's your pronoun? I go by she, her. Thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, essentially this is the same thing, but using the ranges library. So I just found there were like very easy ways to handle it now, instead of doing something more complex. I think in standard transform, what I needed to specify where it was like targets.begin to targets.end or something. So, but I think this can deduce by itself. As you can see, IntelliSense is not complaining anymore, so I'm hoping that's the case. So now we're back here, and now that it returns a vector, we don't need this no-op hurt anymore. It's literally just the hurt target itself, and it's not even a hurt target, it's more like just a target. So I can go ahead and apply this here, and we can see that that is good. No real complaints there, so I'm going to hit apply. And then now we can do the rest. And it looks like the compiler, or IntelliSense in this case, is pretty happy about it. So I think we're on the right track now. We've kind of fixed up all the little bits that we've been missing. As I do more with the standard ranges library, I think I'll get more comfortable with it. Oh. Let me see. It's still complaining? I guess we'll see what happens, what the compiler complains about in a little bit. I might actually be able to build right now. It's a nice change. Best of luck. Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. So yeah, let's try to build this and see where we end up. I recently found out how to increase the size of everything in my Visual Studio, so I actually, oh, and also I need to switch from unit testing. We need to get out of here. But I recently found out how to increase the size of everything in Visual Studio, so I went ahead and did that, mostly because I just wanted to make it easier to see everything on stream, because I'm like, oh, it would kind of be nice. So I moved everything around a little bit. I think it's in a much better, I think everything's like laid out a little better now and easier to read and see what's going on stream, so hopefully that helps. Obviously I'm using a background, so that makes the code still not as readable, but I figured like everything else that's all super tiny is not so super tiny anymore, so at least it's semi-visible when I'm like trying to read all these like windows and error messages and such. So I'm kind of happy about that. Like, we can see things a lot better now. Obviously it takes some more screen space, but I mean, I've got three monitors, like 3 ultra widescreen monitors. I essentially have plenty of screen real estate. So I'm happy with that. But yeah, like, for those of you that are watching, like, you'll see that every time I move my mouse to a different section of my screen, it like changes, right? And that's kind of just my auto switcher in OBS. But essentially, this is 3 monitors, each split in half, because one ultra wide desktop is like 2 1920 by 1080p resolution monitors just side by side, so... Or no, 2560 by, I want to say 1600 or something like that. I don't know the exact resolution. I guess we could look. I forget. But yeah, there's 3 of these, so it's like you get a lot of room to put everything. And let me see. These are 5120 by 1440. That's what it is. So it's 2560 by 1440, which is a more traditional like desktop size. And then, so essentially I have 6 little desktops, right? So let's take a look at the errors. Hi there, Justin the voice actor. Welcome. We're currently working on some fixes to the freeze ground spell that we were working on yesterday. Like, we just started it yesterday. So standard transform has no matching call operator. It could be any of these. So I think it's actually complaining about the function. Yeah. So, it could be any of these, which is interesting because I was kind of just expecting it to work, but it looks like it's confused as to what it could be. I guess it wants to know what its return type is, like it can't deduce it. So maybe I should actually put what this is going to be. This is going to be a... because I think a herd list item is 2 things, so we need to specifically say the output is a standard variant. I don't think it can auto-deduce that, for whatever reason. So we're going to say this is a standard variant containing a monster pointer or a player pointer. And I'm seeing now that maybe that it was the whole reason this couldn't figure out what was going on. An RPG game? Interesting. So it's very like not final. It's fantasy coded, so almost like medieval era, and involving like magic and wizards and magical creatures and such. It's very much like SNES era coded in terms of action adventure games. And essentially, you're playing the protagonist, trying to figure out what's going on and defeating the big bad. And that's pretty much it. It's pretty generic, but that is the game I'm working on. Like Kingdom Hearts? In a sense, yes, you can think it's more like pixel art retro 2D aesthetic, but in a similar sense, yeah, Kingdom Hearts is action combat, adventure combat as well. So kind of like that, I would say, yeah. It's still complaining, I think? Why? I think it just doesn't know how to handle what we get from in here, but her list is supposed to be an elements of her list items, like vectors of her list items. Wait a second. So targets is supposed to be... No, targets is supposed to be this too. I guess that's why it's getting confused. So I put the wrong thing this whole time, which is probably why it was complaining. That needs to be a vector of just the variance. We don't care about the other part of the pair, because we're trying to strip out the other part, right? As far as I can tell. It still says it doesn't know. It could be in-out result. This is rather hard to read. Borrowed ranges. I mean, essentially we're just going from one vector to another vector, but with a different typing. So maybe it's just getting confused that it can't figure out how to get to that typing? I don't know. I'm not a professional voice actor, but I do want to build a studio. I record off my phone. It's good quality, but I really want to look better. Oh. I don't know how much quality you can really get off of a phone, right? Like, without professional equipment? I don't know too much about that. Okay. It says expect 6 arguments and 3 are provided. Wait. Okay, so it depends on which function. It doesn't know which one of these. Oh, so I have to provide a projection? Hold on. Maybe that's what it's doing. But I think there's a default projection included in this. At least there should be. Yeah, this should be a default projection. So I guess it just can't figure out what the function is, maybe? Unless the function has to be something else. Let's look this up. So standard ranges transform. Maybe I'm misunderstanding this. So, first last result. So, applies the given function to a range and stores the result in another range. The unary operation OP is applied to the range defined by first last. Same as 1, but uses R as the source range. Okay. And the binary operation is applied to pairs of elements from 2 ranges. Pairs of elements from 2 ranges. What? Oh, that's 3. Let me see. Okay, so we're concerned with 1, I think. So unary operation OP is applied. So it's a unary, which means it's given 1 value. That's what unary means. And you're returning... The operation is applied to the range defined by first one, last one, after projecting with projection. So the iterator sentinel pair define the first range of elements to transform. Last one is, yeah, so that's the pair. Oh, last one is the, So we're looking at defining the second range of elements to transform to. So this is like transforming in place. Or getting a view with it transformed in place, which is not what we want. We actually want this one, right? We want first to last, first to last to, and result. But there's also a binary, it's not unary. So it's like transform between 2 items? which also I don't think we want. Good luck on your game. Thank you. Whatever you're building, what is the scope of this project? Are you planning... Yes, I am planning on releasing this. It currently has a demo up on Steam, as you can see here. The demo was released about 1 year... Yeah, like 1 year ago, exactly. So, the game was released a year ago, and the initial plan was to finish it by the end of last year. Obviously, that didn't happen. A lot of things happened, and I ended up delaying it, so it's currently on indefinite release. And that just means, like, I don't have a planned release yet. It doesn't mean I'm not going to release it, but I do need to spend actual time working on it again. So recently, for the past 20 days or so, we've really just buckled down and started having time to spend working on this project again. So essentially, I'm just chipping away at it little by little. So day by day, you see me working on it. And at the current pace we're going, I'd say probably in 4 or so months, we'll be very close to done with the game. And I could probably start doing the final, like, game testing. Assuming we keep going. Like, if I keep streaming every weekday and working on it a couple hours a day, then we're gonna pretty much be done pretty soon. It's not gonna take too much longer. There's only 2 more chapters to implement, and then a lot of playtesting and polishing. Yeah, you're more than welcome to try it. I did have another viewer try it yesterday, and they really liked it. They were looking forward to seeing the final product, which I'm very happy to hear. You know, it's nice for a developer to hear when somebody, like, really enjoys a product from somebody else, so that's cool. And since I'm the main developer of the project, I love it when I hear people enjoying it. So, yeah, feel free if you like that kind of game. Alright, so I don't know if transform actually does what I really wanted to do. I think we want more of a, like, a copy or something. But now I'm thinking, okay, what if we do... So here's another idea. And this is something interesting, is I think we have a way to return this still using, like, a view syntax. So what I mean is that I can start with the full list here. And our objective is, again, we're still transforming, but I'm going to do this, like, pipe syntax, and I'm going to do a standard views transform. And it of course accepts the transform function, and then I think after this we want to do a ranges 2. And this is something I found out about recently as well, is we can actually do standard ranges 2 to take, like, the result of some view and port it into a range, which is what a vector is essentially. It's a range. So in standard vector ranges 2, I can put full list, and it's apparently supposed to take whatever it gets from this, like, initial view and put it into this vector. So I'm curious if this will work. I think that would be an interesting thing to try. But if not, I guess we could do, like, a copy or something, or copy if, or I don't know how we're gonna do this, right? Or we have to do a very standard way of, like, iterating through with the for each, which, I mean, that's fine. I was just hoping there was, like, a more elegant way, and I'm always trying new things to see if I can learn from it, right? Because I want to learn the modern... Oh, this isn't a function. How about we do that? So I'm always interested in trying to learn more modern ways to use C++, because, I mean, the features were designed with the intent of being used, and so at least I would like to see what the use cases would be. Yes, it's hard to use a lot of new stuff at first, but you have to at least be willing to try, right? Oh, I think in 2 you have to specify what you're converting to. So I think we just specify a standard vector here. I don't even think we have to define what the vector holds. I think we just say the type there. As it said, it was expecting a type name, and then I think that's all it has to do. Let me see. Or maybe it just returns a vector, so maybe we don't even have to do that. I think it's just a standalone function even. And we don't even need targets. Like, it won't insert it to targets, it just returns a vector. Let me try that. So this is interesting if this ends up working, because this is like, this is brand new. It's something I just saw earlier today. So there's no more errors, so this is exciting. So yeah, again, using some view syntax here, we do a transform on this initial range, and then we do a 2, which then puts it into a vector from a view. So it's like a conversion function. And then we're returning it. We can't return a reference because it doesn't exist. It's not like owning. So we're left with a returned value that way. And I think that's the most elegant way we're going to get out of that. I'm starting to think we can use this exact syntax also for like get buffs and such. So I find this fascinating, if it does work. It seems we have another error though. Unrelated. So lifetime is not a member... Oh. Yeah, lifetime is now a member of standard chrono. Uh-oh. I think I updated something in lifetime I should not have. Standard chrono lifetime. What? Okay, so presumably this is standard chrono duration. Somehow my find and replace ended up doing that one, so that's hilarious. So I should have been a little more careful about that. Did I change any other files related, or that I did not expect? It doesn't look like it, as far as I can tell, so praying that we don't mess up anything else. But that's exciting if we can do that. Like, it was just, I was literally just watching a video while getting ready today, and I was like, oh, I realized I should probably watch a video about ranges and views, because for the past like 6 or 7 streams, for those of you that have been tuning into them, you've noticed that I've been trying to use ranges and views in all sorts of weird ways in the hopes of understanding them. So I decided, why not just watch a video on views and ranges to get a better understanding of the concepts and even the uses of them, potential uses. So that seems to be one application of it, and maybe I can start to see, now that we've done something with it, maybe we can look at player.cpp again, and once again try to work on this whole get buffs thing. Because what I was trying to do before was return some kind of like view, but views are non-owning, which is something we kind of realized yesterday. So I'm like, I don't think this is the right way you would use this. Like, you wouldn't return a string view from a function and then expect to be able to manipulate it, right? Like, you kind of want the final result already. So here, this is a standard copy if, and it's like, okay, copy the structures based on a filter. What we could do instead, and I think this is the route we want to go, is we're going to say standard filter or views filter, and we provide that filter function, but in here. And then, after that, we pipe that into a standard ranges 2 again. And we're turning it into a standard vector of buffs. Like so. And then from there, we can do something with it. And we can see that the syntax is also just a bit more concise in that sense too, which I kind of like. Like, there's a lot less. You don't have to create your temporary, and you don't have to return that temporary. It's just all kind of done on the spot. And it's this, in the video, I watched the CPPCon video, and for those that were wondering what I was watching for this, and in the video, they also described that this is kind of like a very, Linux-y approach. Like, if you use Linux a lot and you're doing like bash, everything you type on the line is like being piped from one to the other to the other. And it's kind of like that same concept. So I find that rather fascinating, and why I was originally intrigued by something like this. So that essentially is the equivalent function to do the same exact thing, which I find very useful. Did we build? We got 6 errors. Let's see here. Can we order them, please? Or are you just gonna... Oh, I think we're still... I have a guy in my... Oh, we succeeded. I'm like, I couldn't see if we succeeded. I have Dragon Knight here today, so... Dragon Knight gets to block my entire screen. So... Okay. Good. I didn't actually realize we built. So everything compiles. I'm not quite ready to actually run anything yet because we still have to do the other side. I also recognize that this probably has like this pattern. I think this could have a benefit with a like visitor pattern, but it's only 2 of these, so I'm less inclined to actually use it. But I know the visitor pattern. I should probably practice implementing a visitor pattern, like a visitor and a dispatch pattern one day. And I recognize that here. But we're essentially doing all the same things, but for the player as well, which makes me want to try and like turn all of this into some kind of lambda eventually. I just have to see if we actually have everything implemented to spec. So our spec is over here. Well, actually, we turned it into, I think, we turned it into this. So we're just seeing if we've implemented everything. So we've implemented a radius, a tick radius that happens every second based on a slowdown frequency. And every time the slowdown frequency ticks, it applies a slowdown. So here we get a buff, or it adds a buff if there wasn't a buff before. And then we increment it down here. But that doesn't make sense, right? Because I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, this buff doesn't actually... Like, this already has 1 stack. So we need to actually make it so it has 0 stacks at the start. So I would even argue setting this to 0 at first, and then incrementing it afterwards. So start with 0 stacks. If the stacks hasn't reached the maximum stacks possible, increment the stacks. And then if the stacks is greater than the amount of stacks required for damage, we actually hurt this target. So we made it that far. And then we have the intensity of the buff be set based on that, based on the number of stacks it now has. And so I'm trying to see if we have missed anything at all. We have the lifetime here, which is going to be included when we add it. The stack removal rate. So that's why we have this callback function here, is if the stacks is greater than 1, we're going to decrease the stacks. Otherwise, we'll just let the buff expire, because 0 stacks is essentially the same as the buff being removed completely. And yeah, so it looks like... Oh, the final thing we have to implement is this. Freeze ground stacks removed immediately on leave. So essentially what has to happen is every target that enters here has to get marked, as in you've entered. And then if you leave, you immediately lose 1 stack. So this kind of sounds like we want a set, because a set is like a map, but we don't store a key and a value, we just store a value. So let's go to effect.h, and under here, let's add a new standard set. We can do unordered, which should technically be slightly faster. And it's just an unordered set containing either a monster pointer or a player pointer. And these are entities entered or entities inside. So when an entity is inside of here, it will be added to the set. So I'll just go ahead and also do down here at the bottom, entities inside dot emplace, and go ahead and insert, I don't know what this means, but we're going to emplace the target, and that should be that. So with that placed, I think that takes care of that. And then we have to check for all entities inside that have not been accounted for. So I guess after this, I guess it's not too slow to just iterate through them afterwards and see if any are outside. So I want to start using like the views more, because just the syntax is super nice, right? I can just say for every entity that is outside, like we filter them out, we're going to do something. So we can do something like entities inside, standard views filter, and we're filtering by each of these. I really should make a shortcut for these like standard variant things. I think I made one called like entity or something. I could be wrong. Class entity. Oh, nope. But apparently it exists. Class entity. It has a constructor of the variant though. That's fascinating. Is that Dragonite? Yeah, it's Dragonite. She's a cutie. Alright. Big Dragonite. I won her at a claw machine while I was in Korea. My favorite Pokemon. Aww. A Dragonite fan? Heck yeah. Well, that's fun. I'm glad to hear that. So I was hoping this would just be like a name for it, but it's actually a class I made. I find that interesting. A way for me to connect everything together, but I guess I'm just going to paste this here. And so this is an entity. Let me make this const ref entity. And we're looking to see if the entity is in range. So we're gonna have to split it based on which it is, because we have to cast appropriately. So let's do that. And since I'm doing this more than once, I really wish, like, maybe I should make some way to, like, automatically get these. Who knows? Hope you're having a nice day and your coding's going well. Oh yeah, definitely. And I hope your day's going well too. Yeah, it's been very chill lately. These coding sessions are kind of like cathartic in the sense of I haven't really been getting into my project for a while, so to come back to it is really nice. Like, I genuinely am really happy to be back to working on this. Like, I feel very motivated, and I'm ready to really finish this game once and for all. Okay, so in here we're gonna return get distance from, and we're going to say we're checking the distance from I guess this freeze ground at the center of it. So let's pass in pause as a variable like that, and then we can use it. So pause it has to be greater than or equal to the size of this. So we would say, how would I know what the radius is? I think we have a radius. Radius, yeah, right there. Do we actually save the radius? I think it's actually a member variable, so it gets passed on. No, we don't save it. I think that's a bug. We should be including the radius in here. Is that not a member? It's not a non-static... Oh, it's inside of settings. Okay, I was so confused. Alright, so we have to do comma and settings dot or radius equals settings dot radius. So we'll pass that in as well. You ever tried voice acting? I have not. That's great. I'll just be looking while I do some chores. Nice. Nice to have something to listen to in the background. As I was doing for my ranges and views little presentation earlier. So we're checking if this is greater than or equal to radius, which would mean we are outside of it. And ultimately that means we have left. So we're returning anything that is outside. So we'll do the same for player, although player doesn't have a get distance from function. Really? Should I add one, or is there another related? Let me see. Yeah, we don't have a get distance from function. I guess another way I could do it is geometry 2D line. We can draw a line. This will be with floats from player get pause to... Oh no, we could do a VF2D actually and get the well, we would need two VF2Ds and then we get the magnitude. That's essentially the same thing here. So get the position of player, get the position of this, determine the length, and check if that's greater than or equal to radius. You got a beautiful voice. You should try once. Oh, really? I don't know about that. I never considered that, but thank you. Alright, so let's see, tick timer. So this is a variable we need. Expected. Oh, so we're not done here. After this, we need to actually do something to all of these. So we have this view, essentially, and we can actually put this in a list of entities that have left the... I'll just put entities that have left. I think that's fine. So that's what this is, and I put auto in it. So now we can actually use that as a range. So this is the list of entities that have left that we can now iterate through. So for const standard variant of this, which I need to grab a U again. Yeah, I really should make like a using something for this, maybe. Entity inside of entities that have left. Then we can do whatever. I think I'm starting to see or understand the power of, or the system that ranges and views was intended to be. I do like how this goes, so that's kind of cool, right? And in fact, I could take this one step further. Instead of doing this, I could just say standard for each, right? Standard ranges for each. That way we're not really writing like a for loop with that syntax. We can just say, like, for each range, provide a function. Like, essentially it's the same thing, just I'm moving stuff around, so it's more like we don't actually have to worry about the range or the for loop syntax anymore. We're just like calling this function that does this particular thing on everything. So all we have to do here is remove one stack from the buff. So that might also mean we kill the buff, just depending. So let's do the same thing. We're going to try to get that buff. We're not going to do add buff this time though. We're just going to get the buff. So I would say slowdown buff is entity. Oh, we do have to do it based on which alternative we're holding. So again, we have to do this. And we have to say, if it's a monster, we are going to do m get buff. So we are doing this a lot, right? Which is why I think originally I made the entity class. So let's look at the entity class again. It has a constructor of a variant to essentially hold the entity. So that's fine. And then we look at the implementation. So inside of entity, we made two functions, one for get pause, and we can see we even added some macros that says, okay, is this, which is holds alternative, it has the get, and then it actually returns it. And then it also has an error if it fails. So essentially it's the same thing with what we've been doing, but it's a lot more portable because we essentially wrapped it all in one class. So in an ideal scenario, this is actually what we're going to be... Oh, I think I want to do... yeah, in an ideal scenario, we would actually be using this class because we are doing that paradigm over and over again, as you can see. So I think I'm going to change this now before we get too far, and that'll just make things easier for us. Yeah, so I like that. So we're going to be making a function. What do we have to do here? We need a get or add buff function that can be used for both. We need a get distance from function that can be used for both. And then we're going to have a get buff function. So we need to implement those three, but for an entity. So we're going to have get or add buff. Let's just take the implementation straight from here. What in the magical girl is that background? Also, what is that editor? This is Visual Studio, and that is Nico Yazawa from Love Live, an idol show that came out many, many, many years ago. Very cute. But yeah, this is Visual Studio using the IDE wallpaper extension, and so if you get that, then you are able to also put any particular pictures you want. It has some settings. Oh, that's not what I want. It has settings related to like what folders you want, what colors you want, right? You get some control over that. That all happens in here. Yeah, it's pretty nice. So yeah, I just have that in the background to make the code even harder to read. No, but I got used to it after a while. Okay, so I'm thinking of changing these two because, like I said, now that I'm having a better understanding of how we should be using the views library, I think I can go back and make some changes to it as well. Some cosmetic changes that should still result in the same thing. So for example, the get buffs again, we can completely remove this temporary vector and just instead do a standard ranges or views filter going from here and then putting that back into a vector ranges to standard vector like so. And that's functionally the same thing, but now it's all in one nice little line. And up here we have again we have edit buffs, so we're passing in reference wrapper. I don't know if I can I don't know if I can convert that to a reference wrapper. Like I need reference wrapper because I need the original reference to it. But these are not references by default. I wonder if I'll be able to convert that, or maybe it will be able to figure that out based on, like, I wonder if this occurs due to the return type. Like, maybe the template function is formed based on what the return type is. That'd be pretty funny. That would be very magical. Like, I would be surprised if it did that. Like, if I just did the exact same thing, but it would provide reference wrappers instead. It looks like it's... maybe? Let me see if this builds, because that's fascinating. I don't think it builds. Because it says no suitable user-defined conversion from buff to reference wrapper buff. So that would make sense. Greetings, hope you're well today. This is C++ magic I've never messed with. You would need a conversion. I figured as much. Maybe if we standard views transform it and return a reference wrapper? Maybe. I could try it and see what happens. That's kind of weird, a weird use case for it. Operator type and convert it? Oh, right here? Oh, maybe. Let me see. I wonder if it would be able to figure that out. That'd be fascinating, wouldn't it? I'd be very, very surprised. But then again, C++ magic is very magical. Okay, that's other stuff. What was this? Monster? So, I'm not seeing an error for the thing we just modified. This might actually be correct. We're gonna find out soon. Let me fix the other stuff I've been working on first, because I got sidetracked. But yes, I recently watched one of the CPP Con talks about ranges and views, and so I'm like, I've been enlightened. So I'm finally making use of some of the stuff I've been learning. I've been enlightened. In the bad way, in the sense that now I want to use it everywhere just because. So I can break everything horribly with them. You know, once you learn something new, you gotta use it everywhere, right? You gotta share your newfound knowledge and put it in everything. Okay, so we're in here. We had to do one of these and say, okay, if we're a player, we're going to do player get or add buff, which should be a thing? Maybe? I would hope. Why is this complaining? Argument types are error. Why are argument types error? Hold on. Oh, this doesn't exist, that's why. Let me make the declarations first before we go any further. So let me do this one. So we're gonna need get or add buff. I know we're gonna need get buff, which is... Looks like those are get buffs, which is not what we want. Wait, there's no get buff. For monsters? Didn't I just use one? Get... Oh, it literally doesn't exist, it's just get buffs, plural. But player has a get buff, it just returns the first element, because we're assuming it has the buff. Which, is that... I don't know if that's what we want, or what we care about. But like, essentially get buff would just be this, but return the first item, which is very easy to do, it's just... if you do this, it's just standard take 0, or take 1, I think. I think 0 return, oh, hello? Standard views take? So yeah, it should be standard views take 1. I think 0 returns nothing, so I'm pretty sure you have to do take 1. And that would be get buff. It would just be whatever the first element is. So I could add that pretty easily. At least I would imagine. Get buff, return just that single buff reference. But then again, we're currently returning a range, so we would return just that item. Buff reference. I guess we would have to actually like... So I think it's still a range, or I don't know, this is a view right now, so I think we either dereference it here, or we have to turn it into a range and dereference that. Because if we do standard ranges 2, like technically we could do this and dereference that. Standard vector buff. No, I would need the first actually, right? So I would say first and dereference that. Oh, front? Oh, front returns it. Okay. I wonder if I can do that on a view, though. Like, do I have to actually turn it into a range? It looks like I can do that. Front. I can also do begin and dereference that, because it's an iterator. So I think either way works. You just pulled a Javid. We've all done it, but Javid, and now you do it in public. Woo! Yeah. Also, hi there, Dragon Eye. Dragon Eye? Welcome, welcome. Has it always been Dragon? Dragon Eye? I don't think I ever noticed that. I always thought it was Dragon, but there's an E in there. So it's either Drag One Eye, Drag Own Eye, or Drag... Yes. That one. What's this? This returns a list of buffs based on another list. Okay, well, I wonder if there's something for this too. But, well, this is just standard find. Find an element inside based on a list. I guess that's fine. And I would do the same here. I would just say standard views filter. Like so. And then convert that. I think the phenomena of just using something new that you discovered is a natural process of learning, right? You have to use it everywhere to find the places where it's good to be used, the places where it's bad to be used. So trying it everywhere, I think, is a very natural next step after learning about something. Curiosity takes the best of us. We have confirmed that it was supposed to be Dragon Eye. But that's fair. I will admit, though, it does look nicer once you can get over the syntax. It does look nicer. I like how I just squished all these into one-liners. So that's always fun. It's like, forget implementing algorithms manually anymore, just do it all with that. It's just an interesting change of pace, I guess. Back to entity. Let's see here. So I was doing it would be get player, get buff, get or add buff. And we provide the buff type and the new buff. And then if it's a monster, we call that one instead. Okay. And then we have one for get buff, which apparently only existed for player up until now. Oh, wait, does it only exist for monsters? Like, did this function ever exist at all? Like, apparently this did not exist, but I guess I made it so I just had to call get buffs every time and then get the first element, which is rather interesting. I guess another question is what happens if there's nothing in here? Then it will be empty, right? So will this error out? Should I add some error checking then? I mean, it'll just crash, so it would be the same thing, but a nice friendly message would be nice. Something like if... Wait, can you get the size of these? I don't know if you can. It looks like you cannot. No instance of ranges take view matches the argument list. I guess you might have to turn it into a range first. Hi there. Welcome. Timan. I'll figure out a name for you eventually. Should I air check? Nah. We're soon just on for the ride. Tell the agent what you want and sit back and relax. I'm currently wibe coding. That's a new one. A voltage logger that I'm going to use in my car. It'll run on a microcontroller ESP32 S2 Mini. Ooh, fun. Sounds like a fun project. I'd have written a function. Very, very fair. I'm just having too much fun with this. As I should. I think front will just error out, which I'm okay with. I still think we're, like, responsible for actually returning a buff, though. I almost want to make this optional and not use this method, specifically for this, right? It's like... In this particular case, I think that would be a good idea. So, get buff, make it an optional, because I think an optional is very fitting for this. Whereas get buffs, we expect a list, and the list could be empty, which is a bit more reasonable. But get buff, there might not be a buff, so we definitely have to store it in like an optional. And it looks like we do want a reference. Do we want a reference? I don't know if we want a reference. No, let's just make it a lookup. So we're not gonna make it a reference. Okay. We're just gonna have it look like this. This is a very small structure, so copying is not a big deal. And I don't really want to return the reference. I guess I could return the reference, but I don't really care to. Just pick a new name? That's fair. I'll think of one. Alright, so... Get buff... So I decided I'm going to take that, and... Oh, I deleted it already, hold on. Yes, so I'm gonna take this and actually turn it into a range, because I can. Right? And then we're gonna see if anything comes out of it. So I can still at least get a range out of this, and then compare the size of that. Like, can I actually look at the size of this particularly? Because that would be nice. I think the idea is if it's a view, then we don't get size. But the moment we turn back to a range, we do. I think that's the idea. So, let's try this. So that is now valid, because now it's back to a range. So a view just conceptually doesn't have the size element. Which is fine. Number of elements. And the nice thing about this, at least in theory, is that if I were to do this again, it's actually cached. Like, I can actually store this somewhere and cache it. So I can say auto results, or filtered results, and I'll just have that view. Oops. That's not what I want. And I can do whatever I want with that. Because that view is very... According to the developers, views are basically 01 in terms of copying, so... Which is very nice. So you can throw these views around wherever you want. You don't really get any you don't really lose anything for it. So then we can say if number of elements is greater than 0, then we return the item inside. So we can just say return, and then we would do the take in front, or we can actually just get front from the range itself. I guess we should store the range then, if we're doing that. Or I can also just do take one and do dot front. Or does filtered results already have it? Yeah, it does, right? I can just do front from here. We're expecting to return whatever the first element is, so that works. Otherwise, we return blank, empty element, which means it's not a populated optional. So I think that's more or less what we want. I will admit though, in terms of the raw syntax, using filters and views in a lot of places, and I noticed this when I was looking at example code too, you do have to really read it to know what's going on. It's very, very verbose. So I think that's... you can really see that once you start trying to utilize the code everywhere. You're like, I really have to read it like almost like a book to actually see, like, the shape of the code is very, very lengthy. So, whereas like traditional code, it's like for loop, inside these braces, indented, here's some lines of code. If statements, indented, more lines of code, right? Like, whereas with this, it's like, oh, compact everything side by side of each other. It's like, this is literally like 4 concepts all right next to each other. So it's really condensed. So, I don't know. We'll see. As we go along and we use them more, we'll decide, like, is it worth the hassle? Does it get too annoying to read? That kind of thing, right? There might be a place and time and place for it, but maybe not always. When you start looking at something like this, it's like, okay, I'm not quite sure if I really need it to be this hard to read, right? Anyways, this is essentially the same shape of code that monsters get buff is going to be, so I'm just gonna put that in there. Although I think I copy pasted that from there, so I need to put this in the other side as well, in player.h. So we have add buff, we have get or add buff, we need a get buff, which I'm surprised I didn't have up till this point. Do you feel like this is what C++ gravitates towards? I think... I say in general C++ being as complex as it is, yes, but I still think in the right programmer's hands, C++ can still be very, very readable. I choose to go a much less readable coding style, but I've seen some wonderful C++ code that is super easy to read. If anything, I do, and I haven't experimented with it, so like, I'm under the impression right now that this is all new, that I'm not used to it, right? So, my immediate gut reaction is, this is hard to read, this is hard to dissect. That's not really like... That is very subjective, but also, because it's so new, I'm still trying to grasp my head around it. I feel the same with Rust. I don't have enough Rust experience, so the initial gut reaction when I see Rust, being with its strange syntax and formatting and rules, when it comes to like traits, makes me want to like go bleh. Because it looks unreadable. But looks are a little deceiving, right? They don't explain the full picture. So I don't actually have an opinion on Rust because I haven't used it enough. I can look at Rust code and be like, yeah, this looks way cryptic, but I don't know if that's because I just don't know it or because it actually is cryptic and hard. I can tell you right now. I do agree. And that was one of the precautions that talk had as well about these, is like, so some folks said like, it's tough to read, it's going out of the ideas, it's basically adding more fluff onto C++ that kind of already exists, but now we're just trying to make it even more condensed. And it's like, the why behind it is there might be a time and place for it, and you might be able to use it in certain areas, but it doesn't necessarily mean, oh, use this everywhere in your code base, make it nigh unreadable. You gotta still be smart about it and choose where you want to use it. So I don't agree overall that, like, C++ is that way. Just in this case, we can see there are hints of that, and there are always good and bad ways to use any code. That's fair. I have yet to try it, so we'll see what happens eventually. So now we have get buff, and I'm just going to copy the prototype again. It's not going to change, really, between here and the player and monster classes. So, get buff, returns an optional, go back over here, do that. I wonder if I can make this syntax even more concise. Like, so far we've seen that between all of these, there are usually the same, like, functions to be executed in both places. So maybe I can condense this down to a macro that literally just has what function do you want to output. And maybe that's all we really need here. So let's go one step further. Let's say call class function, I think is a good way to name this. And then it would literally just be these 4 lines, because they're literally just getting repeated right now, with that function in here. So then we can just say function and function. I guess we would include the arguments. Is that gonna mess things up? Let me see. Are there variadic arguments in macros? I don't think so, right? I don't think this would work, because it would get confused, right? Like, are you allowed to do something like macro... I can type, please. Like, I would be using, like, macro, function, arg1, arg2, like, would that work? I guess we're about to find out. You can? That would be interesting. But let me try just this first and see what happens. I'm just gonna replace this with this, and we'll see if that expands correctly. So I can say call class function get pause. And in theory, that would be all I have to do. And that's what it looks like. Oh, I hate that it does this though. Like, I can't see the new lines when I expand it inline. But essentially, does this kind of make sense? Yeah. Well, oh, I see. Expands the other one too. So yeah, that more or less looks correct. So I guess that would work. And then I would just do the same thing here. Like, essentially just do this, but with iframe time here. Like, for the most part, I don't have to do anything else, so that should be all I need to do, right? Looks like this one doesn't work, though. Player has no members set iframe time? Oh, is it different? Oh, it's apply iframes. Okay, I didn't notice that. But they both use the same function names, so the whole goal was to list initialization of an object type void is not allowed because the type is incomplete. What? Void? Call class function apply iframes. Gets turned into return get player apply iframes. Monster apply iframes. Holds alternative. Monster. I don't know what it's talking about with void. I used VA macros in my little runtime linking experiment, which despite Javid dropping the axe on, I'm going to keep working on it for Windows. Oh, interesting. So this doesn't seem to work. I'm gonna expand this and look at it real quick. So that should be fine. This should be fine. And then this. Return. Oh. The return blank doesn't work for void. I guess I could add that manually. That's not a big deal. If there's no return, there's no return. Right? Yeah. Alternatively, I can specify the return as an argument for the macro, but I think that's kind of dumb. So I'll just do something like this. This one can have a return blank because it's a VF2D. And then I'll just remove this one. I like that. That should be okay. So this becomes call class function getter add buff, like so. It needs a return on the final code path, doesn't it? But it's supposed to be a buff reference, so what would I return if these don't return? A blank buff? A blank temporary buff, I guess? That doesn't work. I might make a competing library zero-link engine, which will be the runtime linked unpessimized version. That sounds fancy. Also, hi there, Sussy. Welcome. Can I really just do this? I'm surprised it doesn't complain. Alright. I mean, I'll go with it for now. Wait, why do I have two of these? Get rid of that one? It's essentially the same thing. Okay, so for this one, get buff. Buff. Let me try building this. That looks weird. Like, why would that work? It would be PG-3, but without all of the round trips on the stack. Less obstructions. I see. Alright, so we wait and see what happens. Hopefully it actually builds. We do have to build, let's see, entity.h, missing a semicolon before the ampersand? What? That must be old. Or it's just something else. Let me see. What? Missing type specifier. Int assumed. Oh, we don't know what a buff is? Well, that makes sense. Buff type. Let's include buff. To get mscript to build, I had to up the stack from 64K to 1 MB. Wow, that's quite a bit. Don't you have to do something when you try to include like mini audio too? I think it gets pretty bad, right? Because it's pretty large, pretty hefty. Entity getter add value. See, yeah, it does complain about that must return a value. So I have to like construct one. Lots of stack abuse. Because I guess if there's no if, we have to do something else. How would we structure this? Like we're kind of forced to return something, but we know it's always going to return something. So like, that's interesting. There is, at least for this function, there is a guarantee it's going to return a value unless we get all the way down here, which is an error, and this is supposed to throw. So literally we can't execute anything beyond here, so I'm not sure what I can really do here, because I would typically just construct a blank object, but it's like, really? Must I? I don't know. I kind of don't want to. Standard unreachable? Is that really a thing? Standard unreachable? An implementation may use this to optimize... Oh, no return. An implementation may use this to optimize impossible code branches away, or to trap them to prevent further execution. Ooh, okay. I like this. So, assume I do that. Usually these go in the implementation, but let me see. I would put that... Yeah, I would put that here in this case. Let me try that. Will that actually compile now? See you later, Moros. Oh cool, it's just gone now. Thank you for that, Hannah. That is very cool. Anything else I should know about this? Oh, it's literally just called standard unreachable. Invokes undefined behavior at a given point. Wait, so what does isn't no return something different? Did I just use the wrong thing? Attribute no return indicates the function will not return control flow to the calling function after it finishes. This attribute applies to the name of the function being declared in function declarations only. Indicates the function does not return. So this has no return, but it's just invoking undefined behavior. Implementation uses this to optimize impossible code branches away. It's C++ 23, that's very modern. So instead of the return that is not possible, just call standard unreachable. It sounds like no return also does what I want it to do. The first declaration of the function must specify this attribute if any declaration specifies it. If a function is declared with no return in one translation unit and the same function is declared without in another, the program is ill-formed. Okay. Yeah, the error went away after I put no return on it. So I think that's what I want. Oh, yeah, you're right. Now it's just not gonna do anything, huh? Oh, okay. Wait, so what happens if it does return? Let me see, do they have an example? Can it still return, though? I guess is the next question. Even if we specify no return on something, and we return something, will it return it? Let's test. But then I think about it, what if that hints to the compiler that it could optimize it away, too? I wonder. Anyways, let's try this. Let's just add a no return to this for fun. And let me just compile it. I do get a warning. Let me see again. Where... I don't know where the build window went. View... output? Is that open? Oh, it's down here. Show output from build. So it told me... Oh, I wanted just that window, not the whole thing. You go back. Okay, so... Return conversion from... Oh, that was a different warning. Function declare with no return has a return statement. The idea of standard unreachable is just to indicate to the compiler a specific part of the code cannot be reached. Okay. Let me try a release build and see what happens. Will it still run? Okay. Cool. We end up breaking. So I guess what happens is no return hints to the compiler. Any return statement can be optimized away, so then it's just gonna break. So we definitely wouldn't want to do that. That's good to know. So let's remove this and let's do standard unreachable. I guess in general, like all of these will have a standard unreachable if we get down here. Oh, maybe I should add that to error actually. Any place that I use this, we crash the game. At least under dev circumstances. So, at least for now, putting error means I want to crash the game, which I think occurs, let me see, error log. This function is here. And yeah, it does throw. So at least for now, I want this macro to also spit out a standard unreachable. That way if we use it anywhere, explicit type is missing. What is this? It's under the utility header. So include utility. Hopefully my GCC is up to date for this. Because this is 23, so I'm just hoping it's... Oh, I see. There was a built-in, so I assume it exists at this point in time if there's docs for it. Well, okay, then I hope my GCC is far enough in if it actually exists in Clang and GCC already. Because I use MSVC here, but I also do my test build on my server, which uses GCC. So we don't have to do this now, and standard unreachable should be called. So I'm gonna try building again. Whoa. Missing type specifier. What type? I included format. Declaration is incompatible with standard unreachable, no exception. Declared. Okay. What? Oh, thank you. I forgot we're in a macro. Alright. Syntax error. Mixing two of them, actually. Fun. Okay. That looks better. Okay, now we're actually building, so we'll see what else happens. So I have get buff, and then I also have to implement, the last one was get distance from, so I'll implement that one as well, real quick. Basically just the same thing again, it's that geometry 2D line. So get distance from const. But yeah, that's good to know for the future. Also, it is apparently a new thing, so I'm glad it came in clutch. New as in 23, since I still consider that pretty new. You have 2D target. Returns float. And then from here, you just say get distance from target. That should be that. So I'm gonna actually remove all these returns as we don't need to return now. It's naturally error does that for us. At least it should. Return here expected. Okay, yeah. So now we're back over here. We're going to convert that standard variant into this entity. That way we can actually utilize it better. So instead of returning a vector of these variants, I guess turn them into entities. So just like we did here, I can actually say that I'm going to, because entity has a constructor for this. So it would be like an implicit conversion, which I think it can do. I think you'll be able to handle that, assuming I change this to reflect that change. Okay, so let's go ahead and try to build that. Well, I still have to fix this, don't I? So this is now going to return entities, and then instead of putting all this, now we just say, okay, for this entity, we can call, just say target, get or add buff. Target is const? Is it? Why is it const? Oh, I guess this is const, which we don't want. I'm gonna remove that. I don't know, because I don't know if that means the vector's const, but I don't want the actual entity to be const. I think, yeah. Oh, it's because this function is const. I have to do that. Because I'm pretty sure const vector just means the vector itself can't be modified, not the contents in it. I don't think I ever tested that, though. I guess if we return a standard vector, all the items inside it are const. Okay. I think I just forgot that detail. But yes, we want to be able to modify the entities inside, ideally. Okay, so target, getter, add buff, blah blah blah. And now we don't have to worry about all this holds alternative stuff. So that's nice. And then that makes it so I can change the set from being a... oh, we have to add a hurt function too. But I can change the set from being the variant to being an entity, which will make things a lot easier. But I also have to do the same thing for... good. I'm getting lost. Because I'm trying to do down here, slow down buff, get distance from... I feel like I'm supposed to be doing something right now. Anyways, let's just work on this little by little. So right here, we have to change this to be entity.hurt. And then entities that have left. Oh, the set, yes. So under effect.h, we're going to change this to now be an entity, or a set of entities. I don't know if that will work, because I think an unordered set needs a class that implements, I think, comparable. So we're probably going to get a complaint about that in a minute, because the variant pointers should be comparable. But if anything, I'll be able to just implement whatever uses it in here, because it's essentially underlying just this type. So we'll see. But yes, let's add the hurt function to this list. Let me go to player, go to hurt, and just add, looks like there's 2. How does this differ from monster though? And do we need both? Let's see. Because monster has a different hurt function, I think. And so it will depend on... Well, it's also got the hurt flags, so in comparison, the only thing that's different is this true damage flag for a damage rule. And what is this? Normal damage or ignored damage rules deals true damage, ignoring established invuln iframe rules, will never miss, and will not have its damage modified. So it's literally true damage, so I guess through this hurt function we won't have to deal with that. Looks like it has a very special case, but by default it's not a thing. So we'll just do something like this, and do that in here. Entity hurt. We do call class function hurt containing damage on upper level Z and hurt flags. Why is this one complaining? Player has no member get distance from? Oh yeah, I forgot. It doesn't. We have to add that. So in player, let's go ahead and do that. And let me just put it around here. It can be a public function, that's fine. Okay, so that should be good. And then entity hurt does what it needs to do. So now we're back over here. So entity hurt now works. Or, oh, it's target. So target.hurt. And so now we don't need to have all that holds alternative stuff. We don't have to copy paste code. So that's nice. And then we just have to filter by entities instead of this variant. And then we have get distance from. So we just say return entity dot get distance from. Then we have standard ranges for each entities that have left. So now we get to do the whole slowdown buff removal and write all the... So this is where I got to the point where I'm like, I want to stop writing the same boilerplate code over and over and just write, okay, based on any given entity, we do stuff in it. So we have to add a connector function for removing a buff, because we're going to use get buff, but if we need to modify it, we might potentially be removing it. I guess we would also be removing it just by setting its lifetime to 0, so we might not need anything else. So we're gonna do buff, slowdown buff is get buff, target, its entity, get buff, but since it's an optional, we're gonna say value if has value. And I think what one nice thing about the optional syntax is we can actually let's see here. This is going to be a const. Yeah, I'm just going to declare in the if statement. Usually I don't do this, but in this case we can kind of like combine everything together. So we're going to say standard optional. Or actually, yeah, let's do it this way. So const auto temp, or this is more like a buff check. Because I'm just going to dump the optional into here. And we're going to need these settings. Settings. And too many arguments? Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. So we don't need settings. Aha. So buff check. And we're going to see if buff check has value. In fact, the nice thing about optionals is that they return a boolean if they exist, so I can go ahead and load that in and check for it, and then I can use the asterisk to pull it out, I think. Qualifiers dropped. Oh, it's const. We actually don't want const, so maybe I need the... I made another version of this, it's called edit buff, specifically when we want the writable version. I don't know, I just wanted a const version for when we have to keep const correctness in something. So I guess we actually wanted this function, which returns a buff for us to edit. So, but it's going to be optional too, right? Interestingly here, it does it by defining a buff index that you want. So that's fascinating. I guess we could keep that syntax, that's not a bad idea. But we would have to then have a hasBuff function to check for that. And I kind of like what we did for getBuff, where we return an optional. Because then we're implying we don't know if we have one, but it will kind of do it all at once. So maybe I'll add an overload for this. I think you can have an overload where the function arguments are the same and just the return type is different. I'm pretty sure we haven't had an issue with that so far. So let's try that. And I'm actually going to adjust this to use views now, because I've adjusted all the other ones. So this is now going to be standard, views, filter. We're going to filter by type, and then we're going to return. So this is doing standard reference wrapper buffs again, which I think we made it work last time by doing standard ranges 2 and explicitly specifying that conversion, right? Like, I did it by accident earlier, but that actually worked. I wasn't expecting it to work, but it did. So maybe that is correct. And then in here, it would be edit buffs, but just the first buff. So we have to do the same thing as we did for getBuff, which was return an optional based on getting all the filtered buffs based on that. And we already do this, so I think I can just replace this with edit buffs. Essentially, it's the same thing of type buff. And with that, object has type qualifiers not compatible. Oh, it's constant. Wait, this shouldn't be const. Yeah, we just said we need one that is modifiable. I assume if the optional is const, we can't modify the value inside too. So I'm going to remove constness just in general. And that will be... This should already be a range, so number of elements is just filter results.size. Yeah. So I'm just gonna condense this a little more. Okay. Good. So then we have this one, which comes from here. Why is this complaining? Incompatible? Oh, okay, yeah, so we can't... This is indistinguishable from this. But then again, the buff index thing I'm not using, so this one cannot have it. And the other one can. Oh wait, backwards. Okay, I like that better. Good. So we'll use this, edit buff. I'm gonna have to do the same thing for monster. It should be pretty much the same code. And I imagine we'll be modifying edit buffs again. Oh, we already did it here. So we're just adding a new edit buff function for monsters. And adding that to the header. Like so. Okay. And it returns an optional. So that should be happy now. Hopefully. Cool. Back to here. So now we have edit buff, which is what we're going to use. Because we need to actually modify it. And so we're going to add this function now into our entity class, which will connect the both player and monster together. And with that, we should be good to go. Is that everything we need? So edit buff will also return an optional const entity. So yeah, it's non-const now. At least it should be non-const. Oh, the entity is const. Hold on. So we have to be able to do that to access non-const functions. Okay. So with that, we now have access to a slowdown buff that we can actually modify if we need to. So we do slowdown buff. Well, let's get the stack number again. So do this. Stacks equals round. Slow down per stack. So we do need that setting after all. Setting, let's just do slow down per stack. From settings dot slow down per stack. And then we will do that variable in place of it. I just like to use only the specific captures I need. That way I'm not getting confused. And plus, we don't have to really pass in much. So if stacks is greater than 1, we're just going to reduce it by 1. Otherwise, we will set the buff's duration or lifetime to 0, which will immediately end it. So it's going to die. This callback function will still run, but it's not going to do anything because stacks is 0 now. And with the stacks reduced, we need to also set the intensity of the buff again. So yeah, we just set it one more time. And that should be it. So now, what is it complaining about on top of this? This is a standard for each. Oh, we have to... What do we have to do here? Hi there, Enzo. What ID and OS are you running? This is Windows 11, and this is Visual Studio. It's just, it's got some extra features on it, like ID wallpaper for the background stuff, and a theme called, I think it's called Cyberpunk for the coloring. Yeah. So those two just make it look a little different. Yes. Does look cool indeed. Also, it's 4:11. I'm gonna have to call it here. We're out of coding time for today. I'm not sure why this is complaining. I think there is something else to this I'm missing. Range and function. Well, this is a range in theory. Oh, it's a view. So we have to convert it to a range. I see. Standard views filter. If I really want, let me see, unordered set. I could do standard ranges filter, that way I don't have to convert back to a range, because I don't really need to do that. So we can keep it a range, we just have to specify, I think, the range we are filtering by. That's what I'm assuming. Ranges has no member filter? Hold on. Is that right? Anyways, if we do that, then all I have to do after this is just pipe it back to a range. In this case, I guess it would be just another set. Standard unordered set. Because it's essentially just filtering by a couple items that I originally had. Unordered set entity. So this is still not happy. Well, I'll have to figure that out next time, but we're almost there. Thank you, Dragoneye. Good to see you. Do you recommend ultra-wide monitors for coding? I kind of do, because it's very nice for me to just be like, yeah, I'm gonna put this here, maybe I have some like documentation on this side, and yeah. For aesthetics, it's really nice. Like, it's very easy to just look over. I also code very horizontal, so having an ultra-wide, like, I can literally fit all my lines on one monitor if I wanted to, which is very nice. Yeah, so... it is nice. It's very expensive, obviously. So is it practical? I don't think so. But is it nice? Yes, it's very nice. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in today. It's been a lot of fun. I know it's been a short stream. Tomorrow we'll continue, and we'll finish up the freeze ground spell so we can actually see it in action, and all this like other random refactoring after I went crazy with the views and ranges, because it's fun to try out new stuff. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time. Bye bye.